Inside every seed is an unmeasurable amount of fruit. And inside each piece of fruit, an unmeasurable amount of seeds. But none of that potential becomes reality without going through a process. All of us, you, me, every single one of us, we're exactly like that seed. We're all filled with unlimited potential, yet all of us are powerless without submitting to the process. So in today's video, we want to talk about why do we resist the process that's required to fulfill our purpose. We want to talk about how this resistance actually sabotages our greatness. And most important, we want to talk about what you can do right now to finally break that cycle. So let's unpack that today. So everybody loves potential. It's thrilling and exciting, the idea of pursuing potential and pursuing purpose. It's a buzzword right now. It's all over social media, and rightfully so. I mean, we all want to know why we're here and what is the purpose for our existence. So I get it, right? But very few of us actually want the purpose to be fulfilled enough to submit to process. Why is that? I mean, oftentimes it's because we would rather choose temporary comfort in the false illusion of security over temporary discomfort. And I say that false illusion because that's exactly what it is. It's a false illusion of security. And we convince ourselves, we let the lies that are whispered in our ears, whether literally or figuratively, the lies that are whispered in our ears, we let it convince us that it's just safer to not try. And so when we have these questions swirling in our mind, or even people around us questioning, what do we do? Well, we go to the source. We ask ourselves, what did the creator, what did God, my manufacturer, as it were, what did he say about all this? And if you don't know, I'll tell you. He says, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither has it entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for them that love him. Right? So in layman's terms, that means that there's an inheritance that's rightfully yours, and it's stored within you. It's a treasure trove of gifts and calling and purpose that's already inside of you. Right? So our job, God has already done his job and put it inside of you. Our job is to remove all of the erroneous things from our past and present and our future that gets in the way of us walking the path of purpose, right? So the enemy in your mind, the enemy of this world is always whispering fear, but God always speaks in promises. And I guess the question then is, who are you listening to? So what happens when we repeatedly choose fear over faith and comfort over calling? So when we don't live up to our potential and our purpose, we don't walk in our purpose, our potential starts to decay within us. It doesn't have an infinite shelf life. We live in a finite body, meaning that all of us are going to leave this body at some point in time. If that's true, and it is true, then that means that our potential and our purpose, our hopes and our dreams go to the grave with us. How many of us know somebody who died too young and they took their dreams and hopes to the grave with them? And what happens when we start to recognize that that potential is dying on the inside of us and time is slipping through our fingers? What do? We find ways to numb ourselves. That's what we do. We start to try to curate our environment and control outcomes and circumstances and people, all in an effort to mask the rotting potential that we feel on the inside of us. And when we do that, what happens next? Resentment, jealousy, anger, pessimism, self-sabotage, and bitter, all those things start to take root then. And we become bitter because we're looking around us and we're seeing people who are living more fully in their potential and purpose. And we're saying, That's what my life could be. And again, it's not about comparison or jealousy. In my experiences, when I've been given a vision or a dream or a concept or something like that, and I sit on it, I say, I'll get to it at some point in time. God has a way of showing me that thing fulfilled somewhere else. And it's never quite like I would do it, but it's enough of a resemblance for me to say, yeah, wow. And again, there may be a little jealousy and envy that tries to creep up, but more than anything else, it's just a reminder to me that, you know, God's purposes will be fulfilled whether you decide to do them or not. And that's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. So comfort is temporary. Pain is temporary. Both of those things, comfort and pain, are temporary. But what you become, or more important, who you become, that's the thing that lasts forever. That's what's lasting. So, when you're faced with this notion of, well, I know I should be doing this, but it's too much and I don't feel like it and it's going to cost too much, so forth and so on. So I'm going to choose the comfort. Again, comfort is temporary, pain is temporary. It's who you become in the process that is what lasts forever. And if you endeavor to fulfill your potential and purpose, then there is a process that you must go through to achieve that, right? So now that we know the cost of avoiding process, let's talk about the reality and power of actually embracing it. You were created not just to exist, but to bear fruit. We all have heard the analogy, and it's not even an analogy. We heard the reality, and we understand rather the reality of what a seed must go through in order for it to germinate, in order for it to bear fruit. It's got to be planted. It's got to be planted in the dark dirt, the mud. It's messy. It's a whole process. It's not clean, right? It's dark and dirty, but it has to go through this process, this dark, dirty process, in order for it to produce what it was created to produce, right? And it's necessary. The reality is, those who achieve great things aren't smarter or luckier than you or me. They just have learned. This is a learned behavior. They have learned how to endure temporary discomfort more than you. They're not endowed with greater gifts here or there. I mean, we're all uniquely and wonderfully made, so we all have gifts. But the point of the matter is that they don't have any special power more than you do to fulfill their purpose and potential. Well, we're all endowed with the ability to walk in our potential and purpose. So what is the difference? The difference is that they have learned how to endure temporary discomfort more than you have. And again, if we're honest, we would realize and we would admit that that is the caveat, that where we had the option, temporary discomfort or temporary comfort, we've chosen the comfort. And our life speaks to that in many areas. But that's the point of this video. That's the point of this podcast. What do we need to do to break free from this mentality of choosing comfort over potential? God refines us in the fire. I'll say that again. God refines us in the fire. It's never about the destination. Literally, everything that we are to glean from any scenario, including this entire thing called life, happens in the journey, in the process. And so often we want to circumvent the process because we want the prize. We want to get there. But I can tell you from experience that what you get by going through the process is the very thing that you need, A, to get there, wherever there is, but most important, to stay there and continue elevating. My father used to tell me all the time, there are no shortcuts in life. There are no shortcuts. And this just came to my spirit. There are no shortcuts worth taking in life because there are shortcuts. There are shortcuts, but there are no shortcuts worth taking in life because you might get there quicker, but you'll leave there just as quick. So I want to ask you, I want to ask you to do something. I want you to identify exactly where you've been avoiding growth. Is it your relationships? Is it your career, creativity? Is it your faith? Where in your life are you avoiding growth? And what small step could you do today to move forward into discomfort, trusting the process? What can you do today to invite and embrace discomfort to move forward in the process? But even beyond that, the real question is, are you willing to choose growth over comfort right now? And here's another question. Where in your life are you currently sabotaging your own potential? And what are you still afraid of? What area of your life can you admit to right now that you're still sabotaging? First, ask yourself that. Then once you have that answer, then the follow-up question is, what are you afraid of? Everything you're afraid of is the exact thing that was designed to unlock the greatness hidden within you. You know, I grew up in the video game era. I think my generation had the best systems, the best games. And, you know, you can argue with whomever, but that's the position that I stick with. And I'm not even a gamer. But as a kid, you know, I loved video games. And most of my favorite games, almost every game, there was a boss on every level that you had to defeat in order to get to the next level, in order to beat the game. So, you know, what in your life are you staring at right now that you are afraid of? What boss is standing in the way of you going to the next level and saving the proverbial princess? That's the very thing that you need to confront and go charging after. I like to think of the story of King David and Goliath. The Bible talks about how David ran to Goliath. He didn't walk, he didn't, you know, sneak up from behind, so forth and so on. He looked him in his face, David did, and he ran towards him because he knew instinctively, I believe, that standing between him and his potential to become king was this giant. What is standing in your way of fulfilling your potential? What Goliath is standing in your way? You need to identify it, call it by its name, and run towards it. Stop listening to the voice of fear. Start believing what God has already said about your future. And that's the thing. You can't see your future, but you can see and feel the things that you're afraid of. They are so prominent in our lives and in our senses, right? But that's why we're called to walk by our spirit and not by what we see. The seed, the potential for your future that God planted in you is there. It's inside of you. So you have to make a choice to walk in what you see on the inside of you against what you see on the outside of you. It is a choice. And you will look silly to people. You will feel silly and foolish and frivolous to yourself on occasion, but that's the process. That is the process. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. If you're unwilling to feel foolish for a season, then what makes you think you deserve that crown? The crown is reserved for the person who is willing to go through the fire. And if you're afraid of feeling or looking a little foolish temporarily, then, you know, those are your answers to your questions that you need to confront. So if this message resonated with you, I want you to type yes in the comments right now. Commit publicly. What's one area of your life that you're ready to submit to the process this week? Type it in the chat, type it in the comments, send me a message, do something that sticks a flagpole in this situation that says, I'm ready to commit to pursuing my potential, to confronting this particular, very specific giant in my life. It's time, right? So closing this video, closing this podcast out, I want to say to you, you were created for greatness. All of us were fearfully and wonderfully made. We were created for great things. And by great things, let me just clarify. By great things, I don't mean that you are supposed to become a celebrity. You're supposed to be a star. You're supposed to be a millionaire. All of us have these dreams that we're supposed to be X. It's supposed to look like this. The potential and purpose that I'm speaking to you of may actually look different than the way you envisioned it in your mind's eye. We've got to start being true, or let me rephrase that. We've got to be malleable and flexible enough in our spirit so that however God chooses to use your gift and purpose in whatever season, that you're okay with that. This is not about becoming rich and famous. If that's a part of your story, then I'm happy for you. This is not about becoming a celebrity. This is not about becoming a boss. This is not about becoming XYZ externally. This is about you being at peace with doing what you know you are to do. This is about you walking fully in your potential and purpose in whichever way, in wherever city, whatever job, whatever relationship, wherever you are planted, walking fully in your purpose in that place for that season of time. That's what I'm trying to drive home to you. That's what I'm trying to drive home to you. We've got to stop letting fear dictate us. We've got to stop letting ego dictate us or dictate to us. We've got to stop letting bitterness or pessimism or any of these things that we spoke about before dictate to us what we will and will not do, who we will or won't become. In closing, you're already that person. You're already endowed with the ability to become exactly who you were created to become. Inside of the acorn is the mighty oak tree. Everything that the oak tree needs to be born, to be the big oak tree that it is contained within the tiny acorn. You have everything inside of you already. The question is, are you willing to go through the process to become who you were created to be, to walk fully in your potential as you reach towards your ultimate purpose? I hope this helped you. Hit the subscribe button. Let me know if this resonates with you. As usual, share it with somebody if you think it'll help them too. Until the next video, peace.